7 signs you're overthinking everything in life, and how to stop. Do you ever replay conversations in your head, analyzing every single word you said or didn't say? Do you struggle to make decisions because your brain won't stop throwing what ifs at you? Yeah, that's not intuition, that's overthinking. But when does thinking become overthinking? This is when instead of being helpful, your thoughts just slow you down and keep you from getting anywhere. And the truth is, it's exhausting. It kills your peace, your productivity, and your happiness. But don't worry, in this video, I'm breaking down 7 clear signs that you're overthinking everything in life, and more importantly, how to finally break free from that endless mental loop so you can breathe again. When you recognize these 7 signs in yourself, you will be able to start changing your thought patterns and find much greater mental peace. 1. You keep dwelling on the past. The first big sign that you're overthinking everything in life is if you find yourself ruminating about the past. The past cannot be changed, no, really, so there's no point in continuing to dwell on it. But I know firsthand that this is much easier said than done. The past is a big part of our identity as it makes up our experience and helps form our values and opinions. So it's natural to think about it. And sometimes thinking about the past can be helpful to understand something that happened or find a lesson to be learned. If the past didn't serve us at all, what would memory be for? But when this gets taken to an extreme, you are no longer able to live fully because your mind isn't fully there. 2. You second-guess every decision you make. Another way to overthink everything is by second-guessing your decisions. Making a decision, and then spend the next several days or weeks obsessing over whether or not it was the right one. Even if you could no longer change the decision. You just couldn't stop the process of analyzing what you chose, even though it was no longer helping you. Needless to say, this causes a lot of stress and drains a lot of energy that you could have used much more productively. 3. You keep replaying past mistakes in your mind. You know those memes where someone is lying in bed and says, "It's time to go to sleep," and then their brain says, "Or, we can replay every mistake you've ever made." And then the person lies awake in bed for 3 hours? As funny as they can be to read, this was sadly a reality. Mistakes are human, but they can haunt us like ghosts. Especially if they are tied to unresolved guilt, shame, anger, or pain. These emotions are very hard to let go of, which keeps the memories at the top of your mind as well. The solution? Unfortunately, there's no quick or easy shortcut. You just have to put in the work and come to terms with your past. Remember, it's not your mistakes that define you, but rather, what you choose to do about them. 4. You rehash difficult or uncomfortable conversations. Another favorite topic of the overthinking brain is conversations that didn't go so well. You froze in the moment or said something stupid, but hours later you come up with the perfect retort. Then you proceed to spend the next 30 minutes creating a detailed mental script of how the entire conversation should have gone. The problem with this is that it can go on forever and ever, with thousands of possible variations. And if they said this, and if they replied that? There is literally no end to this kind of overthinking unless you decide to let it go. 5. You fixate on things you can't control. We have to recognize the limits of what is under our control. Namely, other people's emotions and decisions are decidedly out of our hands. Fixating on things like this usually doesn't lead you anywhere except anxiety. Of course, you can have influence over other people, especially if you are close with them and they have positive feelings towards you. But they have to be open to being influenced first, and sometimes people just have a different point of view than us. There are also plenty of things that are out of people's control in general, such as the weather. You should take precautions where it's possible and useful, but be careful not to get sucked into overthinking things that you cannot change or fix. 6. You imagine worst-case scenarios. Are you a half-glass full or half-glass empty kind of person? Overthinkers are actually often glass fully empty kind of people. In other words, they continuously imagine the worst possible scenario for something. When I used to do this, I would justify it by thinking I'm being realistic and preparing for all possible scenarios. And yes, there is benefit to being aware of the risks of a situation and having a plan for what to do if things go wrong. However, this doesn't mean driving yourself crazy by fixating on these possibilities or being so anxious about them that you can't enjoy the experience even if everything goes smoothly. If you can relate to this, you're definitely overthinking too much. 7. You take very long to make decisions or take action. Finally, you're overthinking everything too much if it takes you ages to finally make a decision or take action. What happens when you overthink decisions is that the decision makes itself for you. So it's especially important to become aware of overthinking of this type, as it can seriously hold you back in reaching your goals. How to stop overthinking everything in life. Now that you can recognize if you're overthinking everything in life, how do you stop? First, if you recognize that you're overthinking, you have to break out of the process. Distract yourself by focusing on something else for a while. When you clear your mind, you can come back to the topic later. Then ask yourself, does this matter in the big picture? Will this be important in 5 years or 10 years? How likely is it that other people are?